Hi guys, welcome to another Tiger JT presentation. Obviously I'm usually Chesspatzer UK, but as I said previously, I'm also a member of the foreign CL team Celtic Tigers, which you can check out at www.celtictigers.club. We've got a website, we've got updates on there, how we're doing in the league, we get newsletters called RAAAWL, so check that out. There's a few of them so you can see how we've done. This is my first season with them. The last weekend I also did a video on, which didn't go exactly how I would like it to go. But this is weekend number 2, so chance for redemption. Also got pushed up to ball 2, which was nice, put some pressure on me. I think I played better under pressure, so I think that helps a lot. My first round on the Saturday was against a young player. He's 12 years old. I think he plays for England. People were saying he played for England, I don't know. But what I did know is he's beaten both my good friends, Chesspatzer Spain and Chesspatzer France, Vincent and Luis, and they're both 180s, so I was a little bit worried coming into this game, let's put it that way. I'm going to go straight into the game because it is pretty long. One thing I will say about my, which I'm happy this season in general, is I've used all my time, which puts me under a little bit of time pressure at points, but I'm playing a lot more confidently, because what I know is at least I've checked as far as I possibly can check, which is what you guys should do too. It's not so easy in London League matches in the evening where you don't get much time, and I've in fact drawn literally every game this season because of that. The position gets really complicated and I just don't have time, so I ended up swapping into pretty drawn endings. I mean, you'd think by luck I'd swap into a winning ending, but it doesn't seem to happen that way. And I guess the plus side is I'm not swapping into losing endings. Anyway, Kent matches and foreign CL matches are decent time limits, so if you get your chance to play in these sort of time control matches, then you should definitely take it, because you don't get that many opportunities. You know, use it. You're there to play chess. You've only got 2 games in the weekend, so you know, give it everything you can possibly give. So let me start the game off. I've got to flip the board. I was black, and my opponent opened with e4. Now, I'm a Sicilian player, really. My secondary weapon, I don't mind telling people this stuff because you don't know what I'm going to play, is the Petrov. These are 2 systems that I can play because of my opponent being young, and he did have a good hour to look me up before the game, and I'm sure he's got a coach. I didn't want to play an opening that I played previously, so what I ended up playing was the Caracan. Now, it's very risky to just decide to change our opening repertoire on the actual day, but it's got some pluses too. Now, I'm not completely unknown in the Caracan. I mean, I play a lot of online chess, as you guys probably have found out if you've watched any of my streams, and I dabble a lot. I mean, why not? I mean, that's the time to really practice against every opening. You know, if you're particularly struggling against an opening, then play that opening yourself and find out what the holes are in it. The good side of that is I had some sort of ground in it, but the downside is, of course, my ideas, I don't have the same ideas that I have when I play an open Sicilian. You know, I can't force people to play open Sicilians, but if they do, at least I know some theory and some plans, etc. Now, with the Caro-Kann, all I know is you get your light square bishop out, and you end up with a nice pawn structure, which is what I wanted against this kid. I basically just didn't want to get blown off the board, which, you know, is a good fault. You know, I've chose the right opening for that. But the downside is there are a lot of sidelines, which I'm going to talk about as quickly as I can, because this is not a short game. The second game may be short, and I may throw that one in right at the end. So I'm thinking of showing that one. I hope so, because if I've got time, this doesn't go over an hour, then that one's just to show you the exact opposite of what can happen in chess. So he plays d4, which is obviously the main line, and I play d5. Now here, my opponent has a lot of choices. He can push and it'd be the advanced. He can play knight c3, which is what he plays. That's going to be the main line. You can play knight d2. I think it's pretty much similar. You can play f3. There's lots and lots of lines here. So, you know, you can't just play an opening without having any ideas. You know, I vaguely knew what I was going to do against all of these. And kind of hoping that he played the line I played, which is what he does, because I actually think black has most fun in this line, which is take takes, and now you've got a choice again. I was tempted to play knight f6 because I had a great game against, I can't remember his name, but at the Hampstead Congress at 190, Stephen, can't remember his surname right now, but we had a fantastic game and ended up being a draw, but black again had all the fun, and I was tempted to play it, but again, because I'm playing a 12-year-old kid, I want to really try and extend the game as much as I can. Chances are he's going to be more tactically alert than me, so I didn't want to go into a completely and utterly tactical opening. So I played this line, which is the line that personally, when I play white, I also struggle against the most, because black's plan seems pretty easy, and any gung-ho attempts to attack this tend to go badly, unless white's, you spot some really good tactic, or black is just not paying attention. But as I said right at the beginning of this video, plenty of time to not walk into quick cheapos. So I'm attacking the knight. So the knight doesn't have to move. You can defend the knight if you really want to. It'd be a bit unusual. So the main line is just to attack the bishop, so you're not losing any tempi, and you just drop the bishop back. So the good news is the bishop's no longer on c8. It's actually quite useful in this diagonal. At the end of the day, you don't really want to see a bishop on d3, and this all sort of ties in a minute. That's why the bishop's good outside the pawn chain. Your pawn's not particularly weak on b7, which is usually the downside of such things. Like, white can play slowly here, and I've got to say I've started playing slowly as white against the Caro-Kann, because I've just realised you just can't break it really quickly. And then maybe the queen's coming out, and then perhaps there's going to be some sort of issue here on this square, but those are the options for white. But the main line's the main line for a reason, and you do get what looks like a strong attack. It's just how much black really wants to take it on or not, and I just didn't want to. So I'm going to whiz through a couple of these moves, because this is like, anybody who's familiar with this opening should know it. But I will jump in with little things. The main idea of knight f3 is literally just to play your knight in straight away and just try and win this bishop. It's taken a lot of time to get there, and it's a decent-ish piece, so if you can swap it off quickly, then that's what you should do. So that's why I played knight d7, because it stops the knight coming in straight away. I'm now covering that square. I'll just take the knight if it drops in there. h4, this is what I mean about what looks aggressive, and you just got to not panic. This is still theory, so it's not like I needed to take long here. I did take a long time, because I wanted to settle into the game properly, and if you start blitzing out the opening, I don't think that's right. I think you should really take your time. You know what the moves are doing, of course, that's what book's there for, but you should still be just sitting there saying, oh, why is this happening? Why am I doing this? And try and remember why. I mean, he's playing h4 because he wants to play a quick h5, and then my bishop actually doesn't have any squares. So the natural response to that is h6. Most of your natural moves in openings will be okay. You played it for a good reason. I haven't done anything wrong here. My knight's out, my bishop's out, my other knight's going to come out easily. I'm going to play e6. All my pawns are going to be on light squares with my light square bishop on the outside, so it's all thematic. You just got to trust that when you're avoiding stuff and you're not doing something silly like avoiding it playing like f5 or something stupid like that, then you're going to be okay, and just remember that. Don't panic. So he pushes the bishop back again, which I'll just drop back because it's the only move really, so it wasn't too difficult to find. And then he offers a trade of bishops. Remember what I was saying earlier, that if the bishop's on d3 and it didn't have a bishop fighting it, then it'd be a fantastic piece. I play a lot of openings as white where I get my bishop to d3 because I love the attacking chances you get. So in this, though your bishop's used a lot of time to get to where it's got to, it's actually swapped it off for a very dangerous piece. And as I was saying about the Caro-Kann, my pawns are pretty much going to end up on light squares. And that's okay then, because that makes my dark square bishop a little bit better. Though it does take time to make your bishop better. Which you'll see. So, just develop. Also develops. He's going to castle queenside. Could still castle kingside. There's nothing wrong with that. This pawn isn't as weak as you'd imagine. This pawn is obviously really good for white if you castle kingside, but that's what I mean by you get the choice of whether you want to castle into it and take it on or not. And I chose not to. So e6, letting the dark square bishop out. Also defending f5. Knight dropping in can be annoying sometimes, and even later on if he ever gets a rook onto this file. Ooh, whoops. if he ever gets a rook onto this file, there's a pin set up, or even the queen, whatever, and then perhaps the knight's dropping in and causing trouble on g7. So, you know, be aware of these things. I've tried to do it as white myself. That move didn't happen. Not yet, anyway. So he just castles. He knows that, you know, if I go kingside, he's going to have a nice attack, so he's just waiting for it. I get my queen out of the way. I'm also eyeing this square. This square is important. With the d pawn, that is the biggest outpost that white's going to have, and white should be trying to get into that post as quick as he can, but he wants a piece to end up in that square. He doesn't really want the pawn there. Otherwise, in there, it's pretty much symmetrical pawns and quite hard to win. I mean, he wants to beat me. He's higher rated than me as well. And I don't think he's lost a game in the foreign CL this year. I know it's only been a couple of weekends, but I had a quick look at his record and it's pretty good. So, again, just moving my queen out of the way, ready to castle queenside and say, well, it's not so scary you attacking me by throwing your queenside pawns down the board, because surely that'll leave your king bare, was the thinking. So he set up this this pin. I wasn't sure about this move. I guess it's okay. I mean, you can use either rook to put the rook to e-file, but there's a few things that he's trying to do here. Maybe this is what he had in his head and then crush me. But luckily I get moves too. And the first move I'm going to do is get rid of that pin. I mean, I was clearly going to castle queenside. Black castles queenside against me when I play white like this as white. And you know what? I find it really difficult. So far we're on move 13 and I'm pretty happy how it's gone. Okay, white's been aggressive in his setup, but there's not actually anything that needs to be worried about. There's no g-pawn rushes coming. There's no Harry or Ari pawns coming to get me. So, you know what? I'm feeling quite nice in my solid position. Only the dark square bishop really needs to be developed. And thematically, in the Caro-Kann, c5 is a move that you're trying to do because you're trying to undermine this pawn on d4. So you're always looking for either this break or this break. You're very unlikely to get e5, but c5 is pretty hard to stop. So he moves his queen back. Again, not 100% sure what's going on with this move. Nothing wrong with it. It's a centralized piece. It's not going to be terrible. But, okay, he's vacated this square. Is there anything going into that square? Maybe he's just waiting for me to make a big blunder, you know, and then he's just basically giving me the move to see what I will do. You know, I've got to be a little bit careful. It's not really yet, but at some point, if I put my bishop on e7, I've always got to watch out for e5. And in fact, as I'm thinking about it, e5 would be a good move to play. So perhaps he wants to play c4 and he just feels his queen's bella on e2. I'm not 100% sure, but you know, when I saw the move, I was like, well, it doesn't lose. It does, again, re-emphasize the fact that he's after this e5 square. So nothing terrible about it at all, but just not pushing me or anything like that, just giving me a move. Which I decided to start getting my knights a little bit active. People play this against me. You're looking at this square potentially. You're also looking at this square. I mean, that when he played his queen now, that was my first thought, was, oh, hang on a minute, maybe at some point my knight gets here, and then if it does, perhaps I'm attacking this pawn as well as his queen. If I ever get his queen to go back here, I'm laughing, right? So that's why I played knight d5. Nothing much more than that. Perhaps I'm going to swap off the bishop at some point. I don't know if I'm going to do that yet, because I think my bishop's probably slightly better than his one due to this pawn being on a dark square, but the options are there. So that's why I played this. It doesn't stop my later on push of potentially c5. It just felt like my knight had a little bit more control in this square. And of course I'm trying to tempt him to play this, which is silly really in one way, because he's going to play it anyway. But I've got the knight in time. So if he plays it now, then I can play my knight straight here if I want. So he moves his king out of the way, which is, again, quite fine. These are good moves to play in any sort of opening, to be honest. Your king's generally better on the b file if it's ever castle queenside. Just avoids a lot of c file action, etc. Maybe you want to drop your bishop back and put it on b2. You give yourself some options. And you're avoiding any sort of, bishop e7 and checks potentially happening. So it's just a good in-between move, a waiting move if you like. Let's see what black's up to. So I play my c5 break because this is definitely not losing or in any way, shape or form. But if I swap my c pawn for his d pawn, move my king to b1, perhaps I can start some action along the c file, move my rook over to c8 and get on with an attack. But at least make white think about what he's doing. All his pieces are over here, so of course if I get a chance I'd love to start some action. So here my opponent plays the computer's top choice, which this was always coming, and again a reason to play king b1. You just want to get your king out way of the action. Maybe he wants to play his rook to let's get some arrows involved, get his rook to c1 sorry, and then suddenly perhaps I'm in all sorts of trouble potentially. I mean, again, it's don't panic yet. I've only got to move my king, and at the end of the day, once the knight moves, as long as he hasn't got a quick d5 where I have to take and he takes, and then he gets that nice file, then everything's okay. I don't need to panic yet. As I said, I've got a square for this knight, which I play. And the last move I was expecting to see here would be queen coming back, because you're just passive, and then I'm pretty much getting exactly what I want. Then potentially some sort of big attack on the c pawn. Yeah, I'd probably just move my king out of the way, play rook c8, and after taking, I'll take that pawn definitely. I'll take the d pawn. Well, I wasn't expecting that, so my opponent didn't play it. What I was expecting was what happened, which was he took it, which is fine. But the other option he had is queen here. Now, we looked at this in the pub afterwards, me and my team, and they were saying, oh, what were you going to do here? And I'd completely forgotten, to be honest. But when I just re-looked at this before doing this video, I did have an idea. I knew I had an idea here. So this is for Carsten, who was our board one, and he goes, "What'd you do? What'd you do here?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm pretty sure I could take this pawn, but I can't remember exactly how, because originally I was like in the pub, I was like, yeah, I'll take it, and then of course there's rook here, and then oh look, my knight doesn't have any squares. It can't come back. It's attacked twice by the queen and the bishop, so it's not going there. It's clearly not going to go here. It's not going to go here. It's going to get taken. It's going to go here. It's going to get taken. But because of the length of time that I had to think about this game, I was like, well, obviously work this out before I put my knight on f4, because you're in trouble. Okay, attack your queen. So I'm basically after getting my square back and attacking a piece that's higher value than my knight. So you have to respond to this. So, I mean, even here, what would be the best square? You can't go back here because I'll just take it with my knight. Okay, you can come here, but then perhaps, you're lining up your queen with a rook, and I'm going to get tempted when I play knight f4 anyway. So you probably end up swapping off in a slightly worse position. Though the computer is actually saying this is the best square. But I like this, and then I'll just come back and just say, well, I'm a pawn up. And, what weaknesses do I really have? This kind of rook lining up, it can't be bad. And I think, yeah, I mean, wherever you go, it doesn't really matter. Maybe you come back to c2 just to avoid all of that. If you come back anywhere else, I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm just going to gain time on your queen. So the point is, I'm not losing my knight, because all I've got to do is shift that queen. But that didn't happen. My opponent saw that, because he just took it, which is absolutely fine. And I was thinking at this point, okay, good. Some more pieces off the board. Chance of getting mated are getting less, I hope. And I've got my chromatic break in. It doesn't mean you're winning or anything like that. It just means that if you can get c5 in and it's not losing, then you're probably doing okay. So my opponent plays fairly imaginatively here. He plays rook a4. And I was like, okay, yes, I see that. And then potentially after my queen moves, because obviously I'm going to move my queen, he may have something like rook g4 and then start causing trouble with my g-pawn, because I can't move the g-pawn, and I'd like to move my bishop, but obviously if I do, he's going to take that g-pawn. But on the downside, as that arrow for my bishop showed, I may be able to get my bishop out with tempi and attack that rook. So as long as I don't do anything too rash here, I mean, I've got lots of bad moves to play here. It's tempting to play my queen back here, with the idea that if he plays knight here attacking my queen, I'd take his rook. That was my original idea, and I thought, well, the queen can't be that bad there because, you know, you can take here. But then I was actually a little bit concerned that I was running out of squares. What was I worried about here? I think I was just worried about him just playing just the rook here anyway. And I was thinking, okay, my queen hasn't got a million squares. I've got to say, you know, what's it going to do? Is it going to end up coming back here at some point? Because he's only got to move his rook and then play knight in to attack the queen. So he's going to sort of start attacking me with tempi if I leave my queen on f6 after the rook's moved. I think rook here is probably is pretty good. I mean, the computer's giving loads of other moves which are quite interesting. It's like saying something like rook g. No, rook g4 is definitely the best move. I'm glad it came up with that because this was the move I was worried about. And then, okay, he hasn't got anything coming straight away. But what do? I mean, I guess I take this pawn. But as I say, I really don't want to just let him start coming in. I mean, that's probably why I have to take that pawn. The queen moves okay, and then I'm threatening maybe f5 as a fork, but it seems really risky. So I didn't do that. I thought, well, queen's fine over here. I'll defend the c-pawn. I'm attacking pseudo his c-pawn, so it can't be bad. Plus, I haven't given him any options of the knight coming in with attacking the queen as well. Also leaving his rook here in case of bishop e7 to gain a tempi. So, queen c2. Now, in the pub, I said this is the first move where I really didn't understand what was going on. But better players than me pointed out that, you know, potentially he's trying to get his queen over. You know, this is why, and while I suspected that he is quite an aggressive player, that I picked the Caro-Kann. Again, if I just take this pawn, maybe he's going to take the rook and he's going to double up his rooks on the d file. And again, he puts lots of pressure on me. So it's not a bad move at all, actually. It just seemed a bit weird because it wasn't directly threatening anything. And even queen a4 on its own doesn't really do anything. He is also still defending this c-pawn as well. So I guess the idea is he doing anything along this diagonal? And again, I couldn't really see anything. If he got his queen there, I'm not really fast. If the queen ever goes there, maybe I've got knight f6, gaining some time on it. So I didn't totally understand queen c2, but you can't understand every move in chess, otherwise you'd be Magnus Carlsen, right? So I played a normal move. I'm attacking that rook. I mean, that was the whole idea of in my mind of playing queen c7 and potentially leaving the rook on h4. So now I develop my bishop with tempi, and we don't fear moves such as g4. Now he's almost getting trapped, so it's quite funny how things flip round about what you're going to trap and stuff. But after just knight here, he's already facing all sorts of difficult decisions. If you take, then I've got bishop back. Where's the rook going? Nowhere is the answer, because you've covered all the squares. So, oops. So he played the right move, which is just dropping back the rook. It did its job. It scared the queen away. It's not going to do anything on g4, so it makes way more sense to just get them connected again and then just replace them. White's not busted, black's not busted. You get time to maneuver a bit in this game. There's no crushing kingside attacks coming yet. I centralise. This makes sense. In some lines, my bishop's on pre. Remember, he has played both d4 and c4. He would love to play d5. And in this point, I couldn't take, because if I take, then of course, he takes my bishop. So there's no taking. So that's why I played my rook over. Makes sense. All my pieces are centralised. Eventually, the whole point of this is I am going to take this pawn when I can. If he pushes, it's going to be good for me, because I will take. Let's have a quick think about that. Would I take? Yeah, I would. I'd take and play my bishop to f6, and then I would argue that I've got the better attack, if there is such a thing. So we tried knight e4. Maybe making me make a decision on this pawn. He's also potentially got checks coming in here. this again, a reason why I wasn't playing any quick bishop f6 is because this knight coming in is annoying, and I didn't really want to ever give him any tempi. And at this point, even if he was going to take here, it's still okay, because if knight takes, then knight takes, pawn takes, bishop takes, and again I'm doing okay. Perhaps I've got some pressure on the c pawn. My king's still safe. I can't go on about that enough. That's why I played what I play, and in fact influenced my next move, which was get my king out of the way. As I say, I didn't want to see the rook coming over and lining up a nice pseudo attack against my king. My king's out of the way now. I don't have to worry about the knight coming into. It's not going to get there, but you don't want to be ever worrying about checks that are unnecessary. So the king out of the way, good enough move. Not doing a lot, but not doing bad. Yeah, it's just re-centralizing his rooks. So rook d1, obviously maybe d5 again come in. The other rook can come over to e1. So, you know, just get your position centralized. A bit like what I've done with, which is why the computer's giving me a slight edge, I think, because I've already got my pieces into pretty good squares. I'm not under any pressure, and I do have the take if I want. The pressure's on me to take this one, which I do, because I'm like, let's do it. Let's go. Let's start this. I've got 4 against 3 pawn majority, so I can push my pawns without too much trouble. If he starts pushing his pawns, then perhaps his king becomes weak. So this is the idea behind it. He played knight takes very quickly because if he ever gets his knight here, then I'm probably in big trouble. So it can flip fairly quickly. I say big trouble, but trouble. I mean, the whole point of this rook is that, remember I was saying about this d6 square. You know, you're eyeing that up already. Perhaps then the queen can come in after this. Perhaps he's going to play his queen in, start putting some pressure on a7. But I can avoid all that, which is what I do. We just say, nope, no go. Try something else. So he does. He plays f4, which is his first proper mistake. And I think I can take that pawn anyway. But I didn't like the idea. I mean, this is the idea. If I take that pawn, then he was going to play one of the rooks over. I don't know which one's particularly better. Let's say the h1. And then when the king moves, the queen moves, wherever I'm going to move it, let's put it somewhere. Let's stay central. Yeah, let's stay central. Then he takes this pawn, and he's thinking, oh, I got some counter play. I can get my rook over, perhaps another rook over here. I don't know. It still feels like I'm probably okay, but I feel like I've given white a lot more opportunities. He's coming forward. I've got more things to be nervous about now. Am I ever trapping that rook? Probably not. Then maybe we've got the rook, this rook, and this rook potentially coming in on d7. But I don't have to do any of that. As I say, he offered a pawn for that reason, and I don't want it. So I did not take. I played simply knight f6, and you're thinking, why are you so happy with that? And the point being, this pawn's still hanging, okay? And now, if I take it, there's no rook taking on f7. This is the main point of this move. And if possible, I'd love to just get my dark square bishop against one knight. And his knights are a bit tricky. Look how nice they are. They're in the center of the board. They're very powerful knights. So getting them off the board for a d7 knight, yes please. And I don't think he can. Oh, I can't do that. I don't think he can do anything other than take. So if he, let's see, what could he play here? Let's have a think. Let's see. Say he defends the pawn. Knight takes. Queen takes. And then just bishop f6. What I'm talking about, I could just take the pawn. There we go. So there's a reason why you can't, because I'm just going to take that pawn. Rook c1's nothing, because then I'll just take that knight too. So this is just wins a pawn, but maybe a nicer pawn, and even then, like maybe even just bishop f6 actually doesn't look too bad. And I'm feeling good. Those, yeah, because it also stops the queens coming off as well. Don't want the queens to come off. Not when I got a nice bishop attacking along this diagonal. So that's why he took, because he saw he was losing the c-ball. And we both saw this to this point. Obviously, that's the only move that defends that pawn. But now look at my position. My bishop is what you call a beast. My queen wants to get involved in that action, maybe on b6 or whatever. And here maybe I've played a slightly inaccurate move, but I wanted him to play b3 because I wanted to make this bishop as powerful as possible. So I played rook to c8, just attacking that pawn. Where, to be fair, possibly his best move would have been just playing rook here. The computer's saying I should have swapped rooks first, but I don't want to get too many pieces off the board. And by swapping rooks first, I mean it's saying that I should just take here. But I mean, I want to have some pieces on the board, especially when I now believe that I've got a decent... And in it saying rook c8, okay, so it's sort of the same plan, but I kept two rooks on the board instead of one. I don't know, I just felt better with the 2 rooks on the board. I think if you're going to attack someone, you probably want some pieces. And notice how my mindset of, I'm going to hang on has completely changed as soon as I managed to get my bishop to f6. Now I'm like, oh no, I'm going to keep all my pieces on the board and try and mate you. So he has to defend the pawn. So he's only got 2 choices, really. And that is rook c1 or what he played, which is b3, which I'm kind of happy about, as I said. I've now opened up that diagonal really nicely. My bishop's having the time of its life. So I play my first really JT move, if you like. He can't take. If he takes, he loses his queen. So that's obviously off the books. So that'll be bye-bye queen. How else? You can't push. If you push, I'm just going to take it. Thank you very much. I'll have your c-pawn, no problem. I still have a really nice bishop against your knight and a pawn up. Yes, please. So how many other ways can he defend that pawn? There's only one other way, which he plays. Pawn now defended. But I'm thinking, okay, well, that pawn has got to be really weak. I mean, I'll play through the next part, but obviously at this point, I was already, at the point of playing b5, I was already thinking of playing my queen into a5. Maybe getting it into a3 and mating him on g7. I'm also thinking of bringing one of the rooks over to the d file and trying to get a rook into d2, you know, and basically crush him. But I think as usual, over optimistic on my position. I do that a lot, which gets me into good positions, but I don't always finish them off. Let's put it that way. So taking's definitely correct, and queen takes is also definitely correct. Queen a5, it's also correct because, you know, what's he going to do? He has to move his queen, yeah? And I'm threatening something quite nasty here. I'll give you about 5 seconds to have a think what I'm also threatening apart from his queen. Okay. You got it? Good, because if you haven't got it, I'm also threatening queen here with something that's akin to checkmate coming. So it's a good move, queen a5. Multi-purpose. He sees it, so he blocks the check and moves his queen out the way. And here, I miss my first opportunity, if you like, my first opportunity to win in under what was a very long game. And in the pub afterwards, our top player found it straight away, but just rook c to d8 was the idea of what we just said. If I get my rook into here, he's in big trouble. Let's face it. I don't even need the queen. The bishop and the rook will be good enough. I'm not even sure what you do here. I mean, the computer's going crazy. The computer was recommending b4. And this just can't be right? Oh, and in it, apart from just taking, which is obviously gets the queens off and I'll be a pawn up, it's also saying taken on a2, which is very spectacular. Because just king takes and then rook takes queen, and you just up again, and yeah, that king's in trouble with again the rooks and the bishops coming across. So lots of ways to win, but I missed that because I was gotta say I had as usual a bit of a rush of blood, and I'm like, wow, let's just get in there. Let's threaten checkmate on g7 and say ha ha ha. Sorry, not g7. I'm so used to being white. Checkmate on b2. Which is definitely not the best move. I mean, it's all right. It keeps you the edge because, you know, white has to react to this. So he swaps off a pair of rooks, which is fine, and then plays the only defensive move. And here I've got a draw, which is great, but I definitely want more. This bishop should be good enough for a win. It's just whether you can find the concrete move for it that wins. So I'm like, okay, well, I can't see instantly how I'm going to win, because that queen can just, if I start attacking that queen, which is what I do, he can just move it to c2, and then I can play my rook back, which I did, and he plays his queen back here. Now I did that on purpose to gain a little bit of time, because it's 40 moves until the first time control. So getting 2 extra moves in was definitely something that you should do if you can repeat a position. And as I say, it's a draw if I just keep moving the rooks backs and forwards. But okay, whoever I'm playing against, I know that this bishop's better than that knight, and his king is okay. My king's open too, but as long as I'm watching out for the very few checks that are coming my way, d6 and potentially b4, then I'm all good. So I cover all those checks, keeping my queen on a good square, and make him decide what he's going to do. Giving him the move and saying, look, what are you going to do? My next move is probably going to be rook d8, and then we'll carry on, and I'll just keep moving my pieces around until you get awkward and I checkmate you. That was the idea. And he played this move. You're going, what? Why is he doing that? Well, again, I am trying to get this check in. This check is a good check. In lots of lines, I'm trying to basically win this pawn, funny enough. If I can ever drag his rook away, then winning a pawn in an endgame with the queens off the board is obviously going to be good, especially if you've got a bishop. So the game goes on. He tries this, which is fair. He's also threatening potentially to bring his knight into this square, and in fact he's also defending this, and he's defending this too. This was quite a imaginative idea, but unfortunately this part from this move I'd calculated to win me at least a pawn. So he played this, which is the best move, and from here you just gotta, maybe we can do it from where I did. Obviously I knew that the knight was coming in, so I attack his queen, he's going to attack my queen, so got that far. Then I was like, okay, so rook takes queen, knight takes queen, cool. He's now attacking the a6 pawn, which he can take with check. So I'm like, okay, how do I defend all this? Obviously once my rook's taken that queen, I know I've got a check on b2, which is what I go for. So in my head I'm like, okay, rook takes queen, knight comes in, knight comes in, rook takes queen, knight takes queen, rook check, king moves, rook takes a2, defending the pawn, and more importantly, threatening rook a1 check, winning the rook. Remember, this knight's not here anymore. And all of that means that I'm going to definitely win a pawn and probably still have an attack without suffering too much of a counterplay. So it didn't take me long to work this out, and I was happy that I'd at least seen to rook check in case he did have something, which he doesn't, which is great. So I'll whiz through this part because I just told you what's going to happen. Computer's only saying I'm 0.15 up here, which is hilarious. During the game I thought I was just crushing, which is potentially why maybe it took a lot longer than I thought it would to win this game. So knight takes, rook b2 check, king moves. I mean, he does have this check, but he can never take the bishop because I've always... well, can he? Maybe he could have here, actually. Maybe he could have played knight d7 check. No, he can't. He can't. Because after knight d7 check and I move my king attacking that knight, if he ever takes the bishop, then I've still got rook check, which wins the rook. So that's the key trick in the position, is rook at a1 wins a rook. So he defended the rook and the pawn, which I would have overtaken otherwise. So I centralised my bishop, also threatening bishop e3 check, winning the f pawn, which would be nice. So he checks me, I bring my king up the board, he's now attacking the f pawn. I'm like, I could still just play bishop e3 check and win this pawn, and he wins that pawn, but I don't really want to let any pawns come off the board. not why his pieces are in bad position. So I push his knight back. Then I've got my check. And here, yeah, slight blunder actually. Way stronger. And I had a lot of time for again. Remember I said about taking all your time. I still had quite a lot of time. We'd passed time control here. And we've both got quite a lot of time left on our clocks. The reason I played the move that you just saw was because I was trying to cut the knight off. I was saying, well, the knight can't go here. The knight can't go there. The knight can't go there, the knight can't go there, the knight can't go there. Okay, the knight can go there, but then I'll just take this pawn. And in that pawn, because the rook will have to move. But he can play his move, which is what he played. But if I'd played rook here, he's actually completely tied up. He can't move anything. What do you do? I'm still threatening to take this pawn. He can't push the pawn. Because I'll just take his rook. Well, actually, can he push the pawn? No, he can't push the pawn because I'll take his knight. That's the point. And this is why this is a better move. I mean, to be fair, I'm still up after playing what I played. But it was just, it's more clinical, you know, and you've got to be clinical to win this game. This kid, he's a fighter, and he kept fighting, and this is move 43. And as I say, this game goes on. I'm not going to spend too long on this next part because a lot of it is just us both trying to gain time on each other. So he takes his opportunity, which he wouldn't have had I played rook f2. And I swap off because I'm like, well, this is the sort of line I had in my head anyway. It's just not as good. And I attack the pawn. How are you going to defend it? Okay, your knight's really passive on f1. And my bishop's fine. So now's the time to bring the king in. I've got two things here. One, I want to target this pawn. So this pawn can win the game for me. And two, I can create a pass pawn over here to tie up his knight. That is literally my idea that I've had in this position. That's what you should do. I'm a material up. My piece is better than his piece. And all I've got to do now is just try and make a decisive breakthrough somewhere on the board. So he brings king in, king up, king in. Bring his king back. And create a pass pawn. In the pub, people were suggesting that I play this. But I think this is slightly wrong. I mean, it's almost definitely still winning, but I've given myself a backward pawn here. It's not easy for me to push this one. And yes, okay, I've locked his pawns on dark squares, but I just feel like he had, I don't know, a little bit more chances. Maybe he can bring his king in actually, and not straight away because the bishop's really good. But perhaps if he ever gets his king or his knight here, perhaps I'm not winning anymore. Probably his knight. I don't know how he does it though. Knight here, knight here, knight here. So maybe it doesn't take that long. To just sit a knight there, then okay, maybe I'm winning these two pawns when that happens. But either or, I think this is one of those times where, you know, you don't need to beat yourself up. There's a couple of ways to win, and it's actually the computer's first choice move. I'm just saying, Carsten, just saying, mate. But yes, I do understand that the other way was winning too. But this was easier for me to play with. So he sacks the pawn, which is the right thing to do. Gets himself a nice centralized knight. This pawn is the advantage, but it's backward again. Like if I push, he's just going to take and queen. And he's actually, you know, fair play to him, even though he's 2 pawns down. He's actually worked out that, you know, the knight's in a good square, the king's in a good square. How does black break through? But I always know that if I can ever get my king over here, I'm getting a pass pawn. So I move my knight, bishop out of the way so it doesn't get taken. He sort of shuffles his knight backwards and forwards. I'm bringing my king over. This is just to cover check here. I want to play my king in as quickly as possible, but of course if I start giving him back material, he'll have a pass pawn. So you've got to be a little bit careful. And this is what I mean by the kid's a fighter. Again, you're wondering why I brought my bishop back. Well, I just don't want it to get like caught offside or anything like that. He is actually threatening to bring his knight into here. Remember what I said about that backward pawn? At least if I bring my bishop back, I can then bring my bishop back to f8 to defend that pawn if needed. And that's why I did that. So bring this knight back into the centre of the board. King's working his way over. Come on, king! Do some exercise. This is simply to defend this pawn, so when the king moves wherever it moves, I want to get to g5 eventually. That this pawn's not dropping to his king. Again, if I lose this pawn, perhaps it's a draw. So defend the pawn, brings his king in. In comes a knight. Bishop moves away. Here he offered a draw. I'm like, no. I'm defending the pawn. I'm going to win that pawn. Yes, okay, he's going to win the G pawn, but the point is, I just wanted to pass pawn here. And now you're like, oh, this would be easy then. It's just straightforward. Walk that pawn up the board. Well, he's still tricky. Pawn up. Knight here, check. If I do the obvious move, I think this was the move. Was this the one I was worried about? Maybe it's still pretty good. I don't know. Yeah, I'm just coming back some forwards and it's just going to go back with check. I mean, I'm just not working my way to where I want to be. So I avoided this. I didn't need to go forward straight away. This is patience. I came back because it's like, well, now you've got no more checks. So he brings his king in, which I attack his knight. His knight's going to, if I take that knight, I've won. So forces his knight to a slightly worse square again. Push the pawn. Starts dancing his knight around. Just got to be careful, you know. Attacking my bishop again. Just move the bishop. Man, we're both tired here. This is a 5 hour and 20-minute game. it's not really quick and over straight away. Again, threatening just to come here. Attacking the bishop and the 2 pawns. I know this seems really easy, but when you're tired. So I start pushing. I'm like, well, you can take that bishop. I've had enough. Let's just get on with it. Come on then, those pawns are really fast. Take my bishop. Obviously, you can't take the bishop. So that brings the knight back, but I've got 2 pawns further up the board. Tap the knight, tap the knight. Pawn up. King down. Pawn up. Gunner queen. Takes it, and then he resigns. Because that knight, as soon as it moves, I queen. Now, a very good point of this whole ending was that I did, very early on, realise that I had a dark square to promote this rook pawn to. Otherwise, it's probably still could be a draw. I mean, his king's far away. But the point is, you should never really leave yourself a rook pawn without a bishop that can cover that square. And that was, you know, otherwise you may end up getting yourself boxed in. Like your king's on this side of the ball and his king's on this side, and you can't actually get your king out. So just avoid all of it. Just make sure your queen in pawn is the right colour for the bishop you've got. And that was the end of the game. Really tough game. 5 hours and 20 minutes. I sucked up all his counterplay, and then I won. And the key here, more than anything else, is just being tenacious. Just keep going. Keep going. You're there to play chess. Like I said, 5 hours and 20 minutes is a long, long, long game. Now, I am going to quickly show the second game because it was a quick game. So let me just grab it very quickly. Grab. I'm not even going to talk about it much. I just want to show it as a... You know, and after that 80, was it 80 move? Yeah, 80 move marathon. I then had a nice quick 25 move game for the Sunday. And to be fair, my opponent said he was tired. I was tired too. I mean, I didn't stay out too late. I think that's something I learned from the last foreign CL weekend when I got crushed on the Sunday. And my opponent didn't have to do anything because I was just hanging basically. So I only had 2 pints the night before. Ready for trying to win both my games. How do I get back to the analysis board? Plus, sorry. Don't use this very often anymore. Maybe I'll be making a few more videos soon. I'm white. I'm just going to whiz through. He plays Nimzovich defense, which been looking at with my friend Luis again. The 180. He's a very good player. Both been looking at this. And here maybe a slight mistake already by me. Just quickly talk about this because he could have played a6 here because there's no pawn on e5, and normally like you have to worry about the pawn on e5 dropping off at some point in Roy Lopez. So I've left myself a little bit open to a6 being a good move and just losing my bishop for a knight. So I saved that now. Now he can't play a6 anymore. So what I'm talking about is if he played a6 here, I have to make a real quick decision about whether I'm going to take that knight. And I'm not sure it's going to be good. Maybe it'd be okay. I'll have to take, I think. Otherwise, I'm just going backwards. I mean, this is where usually I'll just show you what I'm banging on about. And then he plays knight here. I haven't got bishop d5 because he's just got c3. And I'm losing the light square bishop, which is what my main piece if I'm going to attack someone. And the computer's given 0-0-0 here, actually. So I basically walked into a very passive opening quite quickly that my opponent didn't take a... note of, and because of that, what comes next is quite quick. Plays bishop d7, a bit negative. So I've made the square for my bishop, as I say. I'm also threatening to play d4. Just crush through the middle. g6 again. Possibly not what you want to play. I knew my opponent was cagey. I had a quick look at him beforehand, so I want to keep all the pieces on the board because he does like playing solid lack of space structures. So I just get on with the centre. Just castle. Here comes b5. Now the bishop's not trapped, so that's good. The bishop come back. I did briefly look at taking here, but I just think he's probably just fine. I did have a quick look because I'm a tiger, and I was like, well, what's my follow-up? I was looking at queen f3 with a threat of mate, but then he's got several moves here. Just knight out would be the best, and that's fine. I even got as far as looking at pawn up, but it's just not good enough. It's not good enough. He takes. Where's my queen going? So I didn't take. I just put my bishop back. No, my position's pretty good. This is a decent attacking pawn structure. I got way more space than him. Don't want any pieces off the board. Make him suffer, because when you haven't got space and you've got a lot of pieces, it's very hard to make moves. Another slightly wrong move, which, you know, I'm basically getting in as quickly as I can. Bishop develops with tempi. If you block with the knight, then he's got the problem of e5, and I just win a piece. So it has to block with a bishop or move his queen. Either or, I'll be happy, because I've basically fully developed apart from my knight. Decent attacking chances. He took with the queen. A little bit surprised, allowing this little walk, and you can't actually stop this, which is lovely. So he develops his last piece, which is a blunder, because now I've got the e4 square. Queen moves, knight goes straight into e4. How's he stopping knight f6 or e takes d? Both quick and easy moves, and hard to stop. Double threats are what win you games. He tries to bring his knight back into the game and defend the d6 pawn, but now the king can't castle. A4, soften up where the king's walking to. Take, and d5. Now, I probably should have waited here, but I appreciate the video's already gone on for a bit. But his best defense here is d5, and it took me a little while to realise that, hang on a minute, why have I played d5? I mean, obviously straight away from this position, if it works and he can't play d5, I'm just going to crush through on e6. The knight's going to come back. We're going to attack d6 again. It's going to be big trouble. So I was really happy to find d5, which basically just blows the position open. He takes, I take. He's trying to defend d6, but the knight's coming back in. Okay, bishop there, but now I'm attacking with tempi again. Bishop has to retreat. Queen's coming in. I'm attacking b7. So king moves, and I win with simple tactics now. Has to defend the rook, so I take the knight, so I'm piece up. And he actually resigned here. It's a bit of a threat of knight coming into c6 to deal with, which is checkmate. There's a lot to worry about for black here. But anyway, as I said, that was a long video because of that first game. But I had a great weekend. I love meeting up with the guys. We always have a good laugh afterwards in the pub. Win or lose, doesn't matter. This team, we're a good team. I really enjoy playing for them. If you find a good team, don't leave. It's simple as that. But I'm really looking forward to our next weekend. That's in February. So I'd like to say thanks for the guys for all the camaraderie, and thanks to my opponents for letting me win for a change. And yes, my first couple of wins, first win in the 4NCL, followed very quickly by my second win in the 4NCL, which has taken a lot of games for me to get to there. But that's what they say, is they just stick at it and just keep trying, and eventually you'll make it. But anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. Sorry it's a little bit long, but like I say, that first game, I just wanted to show you that, you know, you can win games past the 40 move rule. It does happen, you know. At London League, every game is pretty much decided by move 40 because of the time control. In these, you can really go for it. My opponent fought hard, and he should, and you can get swindles. Of course you can. I've actually done that myself on a previous video. So anyway, bye for now. Please like the video, and I'll be back soon.